The following hour is brought to you by MidasResources.com, your trusted source for precious metals since 1996. Call Midas today at 1-800-686-2237.
Chocolate supposed to be next week sometime.
Oh, perfect. Good. Hey, give me an email. Welcome back, and we are joined with Ryan, and we're going to continue on our amazing discussion on Nutrimeds. We do this at the beginning of the week because we want you to understand that how we fund our radio show and our programs, our live stream TV channel, and our programs worldwide is we are funded with the sale of our Nutrimeds. We also provide free consultations for all our listeners and our customers, they call them members, because once you buy one product, you're good for 6 months as being a member. You get access to the free wellness conditions. You get access to email specific questions to me and a phone consultation. And again, I try to integrate the best of medicine and Nutrimeds. So you end up with recommendations you can bring back to your doctors in terms of specific testing. You can order a lot of the tests yourself through lab testing direct in other labs like 23andMe, etc. And when they come back out in the next few months, I'm sure the FDA will relent and we'll get genetic testing. But you get the very best nutraceuticals, and please don't think you can second guess. I mean, this is a waste of your time to think you're going to be able to go to another company, whether it's Longevity or some company online like Vitacost, and get a similar or nutraceutical. You're not. Because we've researched, I belong to the Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, Advancement of Medicine, have belonged to the American Holistic Medical Association, the American Academy of Environmental Medicine, so I have access to literally, hundreds of thousands of doctors, scientists, research, PhDs, etc., in all these academies. And when we acquire a nutraceutical like Leptin Metabolic, and we have a single supplier that makes it for us, or Collagen Max, or when we have a form of CoQ10 that's 8 times more than the other CoQ10, don't waste your time. If you have a serious health problem and you're trying to address it with, and you want Nutrimeds, you need the real stuff. For example, the maltase flavor, the activated forms of all the vitamins, the amino acid tracks chelate forms of minerals in our life support, ageless energize, and our glycemics. There's no comparison. I researched if I could find a better product, I'd be marketing it, and we're not, because these are the best. So it is open lines. If you want to call in about a Nutrimeds question, specifically about Nutrimeds and access for your health condition, we'll get into that. In the last hour, we talked with Clay, and we were talking specifically about all the kind of health conditions that people have that deal with different issues in their health. And what I want to do is kind of continue that kind of discussion. Let's talk about immune system function first. I developed NutriDefense for boosting the immune system. We have immunoglobulins, Immunomax, and NutriImmune. The Immunomax, 1 teaspoon, comes about 3 capsules of the Immunomax. It's also present in our Ageless, which is the lactoferrin, colostrum, and immunoglobulins. Let's talk about these for a moment, about immune system function and how important it is. And, of course, boosting your immune system function is very important. If you don't have, for example, probiotics in your gut, even the stem cell labs, and I've checked a number of labs in Phoenix and elsewhere across America, they won't even attempt to do a bone marrow to stem cell transplant where they give you the genetically engineered things to increase your stem cells. By the way, you don't need those. You can simply use our Lumen Photon, pulse magnetic field therapy, and Proline Sauna, and you're going to raise your stem cell content. And you're just when you do these nutraceuticals, you're going to have specific effects on the body that are absolutely remarkable. Like Minerals Plus and Vitamin Max. Most people don't realize just how many deficiencies they have, or they get a toxic block where their body can't convert it, like folic acid or vitamin B6, or they've got a genetic block and that is passed on epigenetically or genetically from their parents and grandparents. So it makes a very big difference. So start off with the drinks. I love Glycemics, Ageless, Life Support, NutriComplete. I make up my drink every morning. I have it for breakfast and lunch. Maybe have a little bit of fruit because I'm a vegetarian. And I really think that when you follow a kind of this diet, you're able to really amp up your wellness quotient, can't you?
Absolutely. I mean, these are the fuel that your body's been looking for. I like your term cellular handshake. People know when they put the right fuel in their bodies. They can feel it, and you can feel it when you put the wrong fuel in the body. But unfortunately, people have been living so long putting such bad quality fuel in, they think that they feel, that normal is sort of being tired all the time and, achy and just not feeling great. And that's become norm for so many people. And when you put something in like Ageless, for example, where it is working on your immune system as well as supporting the detoxification pathways in the body, and it is a meal replacement that you could use. It just is a matter of, really a day before people go, well, that was different. My day went differently. I felt better. My brain seemed to work better. My energy stayed more solid. And, of course, long term, as you were just bringing up, using the bioactive immunoglobulins that are found in Ageless, they're found in the Immuno If you're using these bioactive immunoglobulins, what you're doing is you're putting more soldiers along a very important border, which is your gut lining. And they're able to basically help you withstand the assault of bacteria, viruses, food allergens, and environmental toxins at a much higher rate. And if you're a person that's been kind of sick and inflamed for long periods of time, that's where your body does not have the soldiers to protect you anymore. It's too busy fighting all over the place on too many other battlefronts.
Exactly.
And, so we can help restore that critical component to the way you need to defend yourself and keep your energy up.
By the way, when we do this, which part of the program we use for turning off autoimmune disease, we use high-dose Power C. We use Allergon, which is the first enzyme that gets rid of histamine and interleukin-1 beta, which is what's called a fulcrum cytokine. And when you get rid of histamine and interleukin-1 beta, everything else kind of drops, the levels. And then, of course, if you add leptin metabolic, which lowers cytokine levels because of elevated insulin. That's why diabetics have 6 times the incidence of autoimmune disease, inflammatory arthritis, osteoarthritis, etc. And we use our block, and we end up finding, along with changing the metabolism pathways, which are very similar between autoimmune diseases and cancer, like malignant arrest, which basically changes the sugar metabolism pathways, and malignant block, which actually helps to repair the DNA or make the cells go through apoptosis. We can help change autoimmune diseases. And we use, believe it or not, the same protocol for cancer as we use for autoimmune disease, and we find it turns it off. That's kind of amazing, isn't it? We put people on on this diet, and I recommend really strongly that they use something like a combination of the Ageless Life Support Glycemics and throw in some NutriComplete, which, by the way, is coming back at a back order, I think, in the next week. That this combination is phenomenal, because you got to get the body in an alkaline state. You can monitor it daily if you want to with a QRMA machine, but then if you want to do functional medicine tests, I can recommend labtestingdirect.com, and I'll help you to chaperone you through which labs to order and what tests to do. You get them about 70% off on the test, by the way. All you do is walk into a lab, pay the test draw fee and shipping fee, FedEx overnight, boom, and you're all set. And it's amazing. You'll be amazed at the results you're going to get, because you're going to find out, oh, my CoQ10 levels are low, or my packed red cell magnesium is low, or this or that's abnormal. And then when you find out that your Nutrimeds will actually fix it, whether it's a magnesium glycinate malate to replace your magnesium, magnesium potassium citrate, best way to get your potassium level up. You want to stop free radicals? We've got the only and most powerful nutraceuticals, Cell Detox, Glutathione, and Nutritrala, and Regenerex. Let's talk about these for a minute, because whenever you're trying to mobilize heavy metals, whether it's Proline Sauna, Pulse Magnetic Field, and you need to get them out of your body, because they're going to do havoc. And by the way, if you don't do this correctly and protect yourself when you mobilize the heavy metals, it will do havoc. You're going to have a rough day, a rough week, a rough month. So let's talk about it for a minute. Nutritrala, only long-acting alpha-lipoic acid, Cell Detox, Glutathione, and Regenerex. These are amazing formulas, and when you start taking them, you're going to find out your body will say, thanks. I couldn't handle the fire of just getting these darn toxins out of the body, free iron, heavy metals, and toxic chemicals.
Yeah, summarizing it in one word is bioavailability. These are nutrients that, once they're bioavailable to the body, will make a dramatic impact. And that's the difference between what people are generally going to find, over the counter and so forth, is you can find nutrients that look similar, but the bioavailability is not there, so you don't reap the benefits. Exactly.
Amazing. When we come back, we'll hear a lot more from Ryan, who'll fill us in on all the amazing details in just a moment. Yeah, thanks.
We're the premier independent talk radio network. We are GCN.
I remember when I lost my mind.
They're doing well with it.
There was something so pleasant about that.
Welcome back, and let's jump right into some of the new nutraceuticals we launched, Ryan. We've got lactose blocker, carbo blocker, glycemix, the ageless energize. These are recently launched in the last few months. I tell people we've got some amazing testimonials of people who lost 100 pounds, 120 pounds. They've been taking things like our glycemix. They added leptin. They added recently leptin metabolic. They've been taking lipoflush, which, by the way, even if you have only 5, 10, 20 pounds and you can't lose it, this will mobilize calories out of those deposits that are real stubborn. You know, that hanging on if you're a lady on your right thigh or your left thigh, or you're right around the belly button, and it just doesn't want to go away. Well, the lipoflush is going to help mobilize that. Now, the leptin metabolic. We've got, of course, the Minerals Plus, which contains chromium, vanadium, etc., for insulin resistance. And, of course, the diabetoline. The research has shown we can reverse the diabetes, basically. We put people on the combination of our nutraceuticals, like glycemix, diabetoline 2 twice a day, biotin plus 1 twice a day, and Minerals Plus. So let's talk about them. Lactose blocker. This is the first and only, talked about it briefly in the first hour, neutral pH lactase blocker. And it's present everywhere. I mean, only less than 2% of the population even has some enzymes to break down lactose. And the lactase enzyme is present everywhere, from pharmacies to whatever. None. I mean, none out there, if you're listening. You cannot second guess this. None have a neutral pH lactase. We have the first and only on the planet lactase. It's called lactose blocker. And if you take that, you can have your yogurt. You can have your smoothie. You can eat your cheese. It's just amazing. Yeah. Or products that are made with it, like bread that contains milk products.
Yeah, there's so much, that it exists, a lot in the food choices people make. But then there's also ones that generally people have grown up consuming, and they've sort of lost the capabilities to digest it properly, and it frustrates them. And the lactase enzyme, as we know, most of the stuff in the marketplace, basically, it's not working where it needs to work, which is the small intestine. That's where 80% of all lactose is being broken down. So when you use this new formulation, that's exactly where it's working. It works in the small intestine, where you can break down this lactose, break it into the smaller molecules like you need it to be, so that your body can utilize it and not trigger out like an inflammatory response or gas, bloating, and the other nasty side effects that people can have when they don't have the proper breakdown and digestion. And this obviously is it's really a breakthrough, and because the enzymes before this have not been able to operate in that environment like they should. And so when people use it, it's amazing how quickly and effectively it works. Just take it 10 minutes before you eat it, you feel lactose in it.
Yeah, it works really quite remarkably. I mean, I've never seen anything work quite so fast. Now, the other thing that works really good is a lot of people don't digest their food properly. And we see that, for example, if you do a QRMA test, quantitative resonant magnetic analysis, you'll see it. If you do a CDSA test, a comprehensive digestive stool analysis through Genova Labs, you can do the CDSA-2, and they'll tell you if you have undigested fiber, if you're likely hypochlorhydric, if you got a gut dysbiosis, meaning you got overgrowth of gut bacteria in the small bowel, etc. And the first step in that is digest these to restore stomach acid. And not the opposite, which is H2 blockers and proton pump inhibitors, like the purple pill, Nexium, and the use of powerful digestive enzyme, gastrozyme, which is the most complete. It even has a lactase. It even has a glutenase to actually break down gluten, which is pretty amazing. I mean, it's got everything in it. And it works at a broad pH range. It's not just an animal base. It works at a broad pH range. So let's talk about these things. For your stomach, we've got GastroHeal. We've got the colon cleanse to clean the lower bowel. We've got Living Probiotic, the Roussel 6 strain from Paris, the Living Probiotic Ultra, the How Are You strain, the most powerful strain on earth of probiotic bacteria. So let's start off with some of these things for the gut. Berberstatin to clean out the small bowel of pathogens and parasites and release the peptides, gastric inhibitory peptide, glucagon, ghrelin, which is very important for regulation of appetite, ghrelin, and proterolin, which is a hormone that regulates your T3 conversion from T4 in your peripheral tissues of your body and your brown fat, so regulates your thyroid peripheral metabolism and your weight. So all of this with these nutraceuticals all work on the gut. So let's go down through some of them and some of your favorites, Ryan.
Well, I like going right at the beginning. The digest ease is such a critical one, because if you're having digestive difficulties the first, hour and a half after eating, a lot of times what you're dealing with is, you're not getting the proper acidic levels in the stomach to break down your food, and that's where a good place for a lot of people to start, because they end up getting stuck on, as you were saying, the purple pills and things like that to ease up the symptoms, but they're not really solving any issues. And so you've got to restore the function of the stomach to digest and break down the food properly. So Digest Ease is designed to do that with 2 forms of hydrochloric acid, with pepsin injection root in there as well to help normalize the function again of acid production long term. And if symptoms occur about an hour and a half, 2 hours after eating, where you're starting to get the gas and bloating and foul-smelling stools or food particles in your stool and so forth, that's pointing more to an enzymatic issue. And as you were saying, the Gastrozyme is really an awesome choice. Gastrozyme is one of those that is a full spectrum of enzyme support for all the foods that you're consuming, as well as it's a vegetarian formula, works in the broad spectrum pH ranges. It is a monster of a formula, very powerful. And then I like the GastroHeal. GastroHeal is a really neat formulation for people that are taking things like acid-inhibiting medications and so forth, because you can take it right on top, and it basically stimulates the repair of the epithelial cells that line everywhere from the mouth to the throat to the stomach, the gastrointestinal tract. And it has been a remarkable formulation. It's been used in Japan since 1994. It's a very specific combination of zinc and carnosine. It's a chewable, easy for people to take. And I'll tell you what, that thing has been just a huge win for people stuck on a lot of digestive support products, or if they're dealing with ulceration.
And I think it's really insane what I see in the pharmacy. People walking around just picking up things like H2 blockers and proton pump inhibitors, Nexium. It's like, are you crazy? You're going to eat all this hot food. You're going to wipe out the stomach acid. You're not going to have digestive enzymes working. Then you're not going to absorb your minerals, and then you're going to get a small bowel overgrowth of gut bacteria because you basically have a non-sterile gut, because the acid kills off most of these bugs. You don't want bugs floating around. Acid's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's don't you think it's kind of strange?
People think that our body, I just overproduce acid. It's like, well, it doesn't work that way. It's very, very, very rare that your body really wants to overproduce acid. It's so intense for it to do that. And
right.
So, actually, a lot of the acid excessive secretion, if that really is occurring in your body, the interesting thing is it's a histamine pathway, right? That's why when people talk about an H2 blocker, this is shocking to people, but an H2 blocker, that's for histamine. That's an antihistamine. So if you don't think about, when you're taking an H2 blocker, that's not an acid problem. That's a histamine problem. And so that's where we get into things like Allergon and dealing with regulation of histamine in the body. So you need to have a different perspective.
Yeah, in fact, if you want to stop gut reactions and allergies, we have Allergon and Allerblock. And, of course, the Ageless is an amazing formula for healing the gut wall. Back in a moment with Ryan, and if you have questions on any wellness product with NutriMeds, 800-259-5791. Coming up in hour number 3, John Moore. You don't want to miss it. Welcome back to the Nutrimedical Report. And if you go to Nutrimedical, and you'll see some timestamps on the dates when protocol updates were done, we can do an updated protocol for you and your specific condition. You just email me specifically the condition. If you call our 888-212-8871 line, and we do consultations to health providers, acupuncturists, naturopaths, professional trainers, doctors, MDs, DOs worldwide. We do those for our customers anywhere on the planet. And we ship everywhere on the planet. So people that are restricted by the Codex Alimentarius in Australia, New Zealand, and Europe, we can ship in nutraceuticals that are a much higher concentration and power than anything you can buy in stores locally or even online. and you can get well. We can tell you what tests it can do that are conventional and advanced medical tests, genetic tests, organic acid tests, so on. Many of these can be done not only in places like Europe and South America, elsewhere, or right here in America through labtestingdirect.com. All the major labs are linked directly to it, including measuring heavy metals and toxicology. And I recommend that the first home test that you should have is a QRMA machine. You can send in the zip file. I will do an analysis, tell you what nutraceuticals based on your consultation phone call and email, and what your history suggests, as well as your QRMA results, which will tell us where your deficiencies are and imbalances. And it is really quite remarkable. Next, Ryan, let's talk about the next group of nutraceuticals. We have the ultrathiamine B1. B1 is a very big deal. It's very deficient in a number of conditions, including sudden infant death syndrome, congestive heart failure, peripheral neuropathy, for people that are drinking a lot of alcohol. All kinds of health problems are related to B1 deficiency, and the fat-soluble B1 is very important for prevention of dementia. We have Neurogen, which is very important for brain protection, along with CoQ10 and, of course, curcumin. We have various cell detox, cell defense, which is the curcumin long-acting, and this is very protective of the brain. It's also present in our Regenerex. So I tell people, I had a lady this morning who was afraid to get a bunch of CT scans, which I told her, based on her history, she needed to go back to her internist and get the CTs done. She wants to take, she'll need to take Nutritrala, Cell Detox, Glutathione, and Regenerex, and it'll protect her from the effective radiation. And the phospholipids to repair her damaged tissues would be Nutriphos and Neurogen. Nutriphos and Neurogen. So, Brian, where would you like to go next in terms of the amazing nutraceutical array that we have here for healing, for everything, including even Gamma E Plus for repairing your ion channels? I tell people a great deal of heart disease, a great deal of chronic fibromyalgia is basically damaged calcium ion channels, and you can only repair that with Gamma E Plus.
That's a great one to bring up, because vitamin E is a very common thing for people to take, and everybody's like, well, that was pretty simple, and I got that one covered. But you know, when you understand what's going on with like how the body's working and the protection that nature provides to us, many vitamin E formulations leave a lot lacking. What they are is D-alpha tocopherol, and it's one component that we often find in the plant world that's being used. Unfortunately, when it comes to vitamin E, there are 4 separate tocopherols that really need to be present, and one of the biggest and most powerful is known as gamma tocopherol, which is missing in almost all the formulations out there. So that's why you name it Gamma E Plus, is because you have a very high gamma load, and what that means is gamma tocopherol is one of the greatest at scavenging free radicals, including the worst, most inflammatory free radical they yet discovered, known as peroxynitrite. And by being able to quench that, that's when the vitamin E starts becoming much more protective to the body. So some people out there have heard, I heard a study on vitamin E, it wasn't very successful, or in some cases it didn't help at all, or in others I've heard that it wasn't beneficial, it was like negative. Well, you've got to make sure you're using truly nature's power in the way that it's designed to stop free radical damage. Otherwise, you literally are wasting your money. And so that's what's so great about the Nutrimed line. An area that I think that people need to look out for, and I'm sure that there's a lot of interest in, that's mobility issues. There's nothing worse than losing your mobility. It's also extremely life-threatening, because if you can't move, muscles start deteriorating, the immune system won't work well, and you're in a real bad spot. And so one of the formulations I think is really cool to look at is tendon mender. Very common for people to have repetitive motion injury challenges. And so that could be like a rotator cuff, or what they call tennis elbow, or Achilles tendinopathy, or plantar fasciitis, or even like carpal tunnel. So you see people either, wearing braces, or maybe they put something like a band type thing. You see it with Velcro right around the wrist, or the knee is another key area. And these people have to wear these things just to keep it from being irritated all the time, but they need to be able to move. Well, tendon mender is a fascinating compound derived from rooster combs that, when it's ingested orally in these little capsules, just a small amount per day, it really sends a dynamic message to the tenocytes that make up these tendons and ligaments to basically relax, lay back down in a proper alignment, and so they actually cause a thinning of what you want, a thinning of these tendons, and repair, and all of a sudden you've got your mobility coming back, and you're starting to lessen those issues with inflammation and pain at the same time. And tendon mender is a really needed formula for so many people out there.
It's amazing. I take it every day. When you take it twice a day, if you've had myofasciitis, tendinitis, bursitis, interfascial adhesions, and I go for regular massages every week, and it works fantastic. I take that along with Inflamex. 3 capsules twice a day is usually enough for average sized person. If it's really severe, you can go up to 5 capsules twice a day. But tendon mender, joint performance, and the other in that triad is joint performance. It builds up cartilage better than anything else I know. There's no comparison to anything else. And then, of course, leptin metabolic that gets rid of the cytokines for any osteoarthritis, inflammatory arthritis, etc., and then the Inflamex to stop the interfascial adhesions and what I call the fuzz between the tissues that sticks everything together. It's just, and you don't want anti-inflammatories. When you take non-steroidals, these are one of my drugs that I call a big X on it, bringing the best of nutrition and medicine together. There's some medical drugs that are okay, like ACE receptor blockers are okay, some mild diuretics, etc., some beta blockers are long-acting, but anti-inflammatories, non-steroidals, chronic use of things like chronic pain meds, like, OxyContin or fentanyl citrate patches, gel patches, these are dangerous, okay? And even if you're monitoring with a pain specialist, I tell people we want to fix the problem. When we actually stop the pain, it's because we fixed the problem. We actually turned off the swelling, which is trapping the shoulder capsule, or the tendencies, or the carpal tunnel in your wrist, so you're not compressing the median nerve. That's what's neat, is we actually fix the problem, and we actually turn off the inflammatory cytokines with leptin metabolic.
I like that, Dr. Bill. I like that a lot. The thinking behind that is what people need to really consider. It's like, hey, it's not, people are like, well, is it as fast as my, pain-relieving medication? Like, it's not about being faster.
Yeah,
it's about,
it's better.
Getting after the core of what's really wrong. I think it's great you brought up Inflamex. Sometimes I don't hit all these formulations that are available, but there's a very good one that works, in a lot of acute challenges. You hurt yourself or you're going through something traumatic. I know one of the studies done with one of the key enzymes in there, serapeptase, that's in that formulation. It's a broad-spectrum enzyme formula that's designed not for breaking down your food, but for breaking down damaged tissues. So when you're getting, like you're saying, the stagnation and the inability to kind of repair an area, the Inflamex is remarkable for both acute and long-term challenges. Man, I actually had something recently where I hurt myself. I was working out and stuff, and so I was using the Inflamex, and man, it just is remarkable at how well that does. And I'm a big proponent of trying to stay away from any kind of they'll cross your blood-brain barrier and make you demented. Yeah. They can cause heart failure because they interfere with CoQ10 metabolism. They can destroy your joints because they interfere with the glycosaminoglycan generation of new cartilage, which is bad. That's why you want to take Collagen Max along with our triad of tendon mender, joint performance, and leptin metabolic. And then let's move on to some of the other things. Let's talk about eyes. Vision Max, which is also the same formula for the prostate gland. I recommend, of course, along with that, the Nutrimedical, our Can-C eye drops, which we use, and I'm working on a new formula, but that's a lot of work, a lot of expense, and I need your support, by the way, in order to have the finances to be able to develop this formula and get it launched. So if you want it, you've got to support us, and then we will have that formula IC later. Vision Max, let's talk about when we come back. Nutrimedical and Cell Defense and a phospholipids Neurogen for the eye nerves, and Nutrifos, Omega Cod liver liquid, etc. Back in a moment. Pretty neat. Very cool.
Welcome back, and Ryan, I'd like you to talk about our triad. We talked about this earlier, which is the one to raise mitochondrial function. Your mitochondria are the king of the cell, or queen of the cell, I should call it, because you get all your mitochondria from your mother. And it turns out that the talk between your mitochondria and your cell determine whether you get autoimmune disease or cancer, and also how long you live. If you average the lifespan of your mother, your grandmother, great-grandmother, if they didn't die traumatically, you subtract 2 years on average for a male and add 3 years for a female, and you get an idea of the average life expectancy based on your mitochondrial genetics. That's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Oh,
and,
very.
And you can actually look at the mitochondria, and you can see the specific mitochondrial SNPs or polymorphisms that cause extended lifespan. There are some specific genes in the eukaryotic cell, but the most important ones are in mitochondria. So they talk about the idea of mitochondrial protofection. In fact, some of these new IVF babies that are going to generate new embryos basically have a mother and father, but because the mitochondria of the mother are defective, they're going to transplant new mitochondria into the cell of the ovum so that they'll have healthy mitochondria for the baby to develop normally, not develop a mitochondrial-related disease. And there's a lot of mitochondriopathy-related diseases that you don't have to have. So I don't see any problem. I call it mitochondrial protofection, or specifically upgrading those mitochondria with specific gene complexes. So these types of gene therapies are going to come on very shortly, and we'll have all kinds of different diseases we'll target and be able to reverse or stop them completely. The first step, of course, is nutraceuticals and metabolic support. And so let's talk about mitochondria. The anti-age max, Nutritrella, and Supernox. This triad is very important for mitochondrial function. Tell us why. Well,
these three work in concert with one another in a very interesting way. It's not what you'd normally think about for mitochondrial support. But the way that it's functioning is it drives up these three different things through each of their own unique mechanisms. For Nutritrella, through a pathway known as AMPK, the NO-max, nitric oxide driver, super NOx driver, and then the anti-age max. Those three are pushing a pathway known as PGC1 alpha in mammals like us. If PGC1 alpha goes low, we put on weight, we move towards diabetes, neurodegeneration, cardiovascular disease. Basically, we go into a serious state of decline, which people can say, I can relate to that. Also, you start having very low energy output. But by raising PGC1 alpha, which these three formulas work in concert to do, it is a lot like just exercising for the body. And so what it does is raises PGC1 alpha, and it moves things away from those conditions, and it stimulates more mitochondrial function, including mitochondrial biogenesis, the creation of new mitochondria. And so for people out there that are looking and seeking for a better, consistent energy in their body, what you want to do is generate it from the source. You can certainly put in caffeine and different stimulatory things for a temporary fix that might last you minutes or hours. But what you're really trying to do is go to the source and figure out why it is that the mitochondria within all your cells are not functioning like they should. And so being able to enhance PGC1 alpha through these three unique pathways makes a dramatic difference for people. And so it's a life changer. So hopefully a lot of people will want to, see how that goes.
Yeah, when they take it, they'll start to notice that if they've got chronic fatigue, muscle myopathies, cardiomyopathies, and it's very common. Cardiomyopathies are extremely common, where people get congestive heart failure. A lot of time it's triggered off by something like obstructive sleep apnea at night. It can be triggered off by heavy metals, which is the most common thing. So you do a QRMA test or a heavy hair analysis test or a PAC red cell test for heavy metals, you'll find it universally present. When we're taking things like the mitochondrial support, we have other nutraceuticals. We have our CoQ10 and CoQ10 ubiquinol. I recommend ubiquinol at least 3 to 4 capsules of soft gels twice a day to top up the background reserve, and then take CoQ10 during the day. It reverses chronic congestive heart failure, fibromyalgia, myofascial pain syndromes, because most people who develop a myofascial pain syndrome are spreading reflex sympathetic dystrophy. They've got a mitochondriopathy that's triggered off by an initial traumatic event. And it spreads. It can actually spread through the body. It's a reflex dystrophic change that's triggered off by autonomic imbalances. And the autonomic nervous system will push it forward into other neural levels, spinal nerve root levels of the autonomic nervous system, so it's nasty. So you can stop that with the CoQ10 and these other nutraceuticals, these triad that we just talked about. In terms of Vision Max, I want to talk about eyes again. The components in Vision Max are the most superior formula for eye care. We recommend it along with our Can-C eye drops. It has a special form biologically available zinc for superoxide dismutase and catalase to quench free radicals in the eye and retina, L-taurine and zinc. It's got bilberry dialysable antioxidant to protect against the eye, and anthocyanidins to protect against superoxide radicals and peroxynitrate radicals, alpha-lipoic acid, quercetin that quenches free, these hot electrons, and lutein that's very good not only for the prostate but for the eye. So this formula, by the way, works both well in male prostate and in eye formula. And that's why we recommend Men's Max to release male hormone. The Vision Max, we recommend take prostate flow to restore the prostate gland to normal health, 1 to 2 soft gels twice a day. and hormone synergy, which has the 8-prenylin to prevent male hormone from being converted to female, which is very, very common in adipose tissue primarily. Extremely common to see that. If you do a saliva test for hormones, you're going to find the male hormone levels all screwed up, where you're seeing male hormone, but you're also seeing a lot of conversion to estradiol. So it's interesting that you see some males higher levels of female hormone because they're doing androgen replacement hormone with androgel or injections. They'll have higher female levels than their wife or their daughter. It's weird, isn't it?
Horrible.
And you can stop it with just the hormone synergy. You just take your capsules in the morning and you're laughing. It's pretty amazing, eh?
Yes, and you know, when you're on that point about what everybody needs to do, the men's max is a really neat formulation for regulating that T level, where you talk about having enough testosterone but active. Bioavailable, what was known as free testosterone. That's really a key. People can have their testosterone measured, but the real question is how much is free and available. Right.
We have the enhanced for men too, and I will sometimes add DHEA and pregnenolone as well. One of the most important things for regenerating tissue is omega fatty acids and phospholipids, and we don't often spend enough time on it. Omega Supreme Krill and Omega Supreme, it's been proven that, for example, Omega Cod Liver Liquid is equivalent and superior to statin drugs. Don't, for God's sake, take statin drugs. These are dangerous. They actually hasten cardiac problems. What you want to do is get rid of the oxidized cholesterol, like trans fats, out of the diet, which is a dietary choice. You want to get rid of VLDL3 cholesterol, and of course you can do that with Neovasc, which is niacinamide. And our Neovasc is half the flush rate of the medical doctor niacinamide. But then when you add Power C Plus or Allergon, no flushing at all. None. So the Power C Plus and the Allergon will completely get rid of the flushing spells. And I tell people Neovasc is very, very important for osteoarthritis. We find osteo response to Neovasc and the leptin metabolic and the Inflamex. Interesting how niacinamide is important for joints. It's also important for behavioral problems. We see somebody that's a little psychotic or schizophrenic, niacinamide is very important for that part of the brain. And we, of course, have our BioH4 Biopterin for brain function, but also we have the Minerals Plus that contains molybdenum, which is very important for the tryptase and pyrrolase enzymes for your brain to bioconvert. So let's talk for a minute about Omega Cod Liver Liquid, Omega Supreme Krill, and the phospholipids. These are a whole category. A lot of people forget, I don't need those. Yes, you do. And we have a whole range of these phospholipids and omega fatty acids that turn off inflammation and repair cell membranes.
Well, the foundational building block of our entire bodies. We're made up of all these cells, but what's making up these cell linings are these essential fatty acids that you're talking about, including cholesterol, is a key component within these cell membranes. But we oftentimes are not consuming enough of the proper quantities of the right fats to build them, like the omega-3s. So Omega Supreme comes into play. The phospholipids with omega-3s in it is the Omega Supreme Krill. The phospholipids, where you look at Nutrifos, hugely important formulations.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, Ryan. We'll be back to discuss these amazing formulas and new protocols again on Friday. Coming up in hour 3, John Moore. Important world events we're going to review, and some specials this week. I'm working to bring on Jeffrey Smith on non-GMO and the March Against Monsanto and the bills across the country on GMO foods. We're going to be helping them dramatically in this area. And coming up on Wednesday, Michael Connolly, attorney, head of the U.S. Justice Foundation. You don't want to miss that interview. That's going to be an amazing one. Take care, take action. We thank you for your support. We'll be back in